First semi-final of our very first debate in this project, and I would like to wish everyone a very successful debate, especially for the two contesting teams from Spain and Latvia. And I would like to ask everybody kindly to keep in mind the rules of the debate, which I'm sure you are very familiar with. And I would like to ask the judges to try to be as constructive and as impartial as we can be. And let's do our job as well as we can this morning. And so, thank you very much for your cooperation and being here. And I would like to pass on the words to the Master of Ceremony. Thank you very much.
Good morning, teachers, students, and members of the jury. First, I want to give the most warm welcome to our school in Castro and to our beautiful city, Vigo, for those who are visiting us these days and who come from other countries of European Union. For us, it is a joy to welcome you, and we are proud to host this forum for discussion of the Erasmus program Dispute, Discuss, Deliver. The process will come with the participation of 4 teams organized in 2 semi-finals, where they will discuss the resolution. The world will be better off with a genetically modified. This session will celebrate the first semi-final with the participation of 2 teams, A team and N team. The debaters of the N team, A team are A1, Elsa Cecilia, A2, Ulvi Sultans, A3, Vineta Udrena from Latvia. They will defend the resolution. And the debaters of the N team, they are N1, Clara Pena, N2, Santiago Andújar, N3, Sara from Spain. They will refute the resolution. My role in this process will be securing the equal use of the participants' time. And now, good luck to all the participants. First, I give the floor to A1, who will defend the resolution.
Hello, dear judges. I'm the first speaker of approving team, and today our resolution is that the world would be a better place without GMO food. And genetically modified food is such a hot topic of intense debate that has sparked a lot of controversy over the years, pulled largely through the lack of understanding and a lot of misinformation. And it's very hard to know what to think. And our team thinks that the world would be a better place without GMO food, and in my debate I will explain why. And our first argument is that GMO harm the environment. As weeds adapt to herbicides, they develop a resistance and evolve to in what we are called super weeds. When that happens, herbicide used increase and the benefits of herbicides-resistant crops are diminished, if not lost. As a result, even more powerful insecticides must be applied to control weeds, which automatically contaminates groundwater and kills many animals and plants that are not target to these toxic chemicals. Research is ongoing into impact the GMOs could be having on birds, on butterflies, bees, frogs, and microorganisms that lives in the soil and our lakes, rivers, and streams. Monarch butterfly population are down on 50%. Scientists are exploring whether GMOs are reducing their habitat or poisoning the milkweed the butterflies feed on. Roundup herbicide used in conjunction with GMO crops has been linked to high rates of mortality in some amphibians and organ damage to various animals. Pollen from GMO crops can easily contaminate neighboring crops and wild plants. In North Dakota, genetically modified canola was found growing in the wild, far away from planted crops. The same thing is happening in Mexico with heritage corn crops. GMO pesticides are poisoning our water supply. In tests carried out in Catalonia, Spain, over 40% of groundwater samples contain glyphosate, the active ingredient in Monsanto's herbicide Roundup. Studies have linked this toxin to disease in plants and also at least 15 adverse health effects like Alzheimer's disease, autism, birth defects, brain, breast cancer, kidney disease, diabetes and others, which leads to our second argument that GMO food isn't healthy. First, for long-term studies haven't been done to their impact to human body. GMOs have only been in diet since the 90s, so it's difficult to know what the long-term health impacts truly are. Believe it or not, but the very first commercial sale of them was only 20 years ago. There's no possible way that our health authorities can test all possible combinations on a large enough population over a long enough period of time to be able to say with absolute certainty that they are harmless. The American Academy of Environmental Medicine also reports that several animal studies indicate serious health risks associated with GMO food, including infertility, immune problems, accelerated aging, problems regulating insulin, changes to major organs, and the gastrointestinal system. The results of tests on animals exposed to GMO crops give serious cause for concern over the safety. In 1998, Scottish scientists found damage to every single internal organs in rats fed light-resistant GMO potatoes. In 2006 experiment, female rats fed on herbicide-resistant soybeans gave birth to severely stunted pups, of which half died within 3 weeks. The survivors were sterile. In the same year, Indian news agencies reported that thousands of sheep allowed to graze on Bt cotton crop residues have died suddenly. Further cases of livestock deaths followed in 2007. There have also been reports of allergy, like symptoms among Indian laborers in Bt cotton fields. In 2002, the only trial to ever involve human beings appeared to show that altered genetic material from GMO soybeans not only survives in the human gut, but may even pass its genetic material, material to bacteria within the digestive system. Research published in the International Journal of Biological Science suggests that consumption of GMO corn may contribute to weight gain as well as liver and kidney problems. Also, in 2012, French professors Gilles and Eric Serlini's French scientist study says that rats who had used the diet of the USA company's Monsanto genetically modified maize developed cancer and endured several health problems. So it means that world would be a better place without GMO food. Thank you all for your attention, and I'm ready to answer the questions.
We would like to ask for 3 minutes to prepare our questions.
Well, in the first place, you didn't provide enough reliable information sources, and you have talked about the negative consequences of GMOs, but however, have you noticed that the problems are not GMOs themselves, but in the way that they are treated?
Anyway, the way that are treated is bad, and it has consequences which isn't good.
Okay, thank you for your answer.
That's all.
Now it's time for the N1 to represent the line of the argument against the resolution.
Good morning. I'm the first speaker of the narrative team. I'd like to say that you haven't provided the definition of the concepts that we're going to treat today, which is GM foods. What is a GM food? Well, they are the ones that come from organisms which are altered by genetic engineering so that they get genes from other organisms to develop some specific characteristic that they couldn't have control. Well, secondly, I'm going to introduce you about the advantages that transgenics can have on our health and our environment, and then my partners are going to talk to you about the economy and transgenics, and my other, the last member of my group, is going to tell you the conclusion. Okay. First of all, you talked about the resistance to antibiotics and animals. And I'd like to say that this happens with with every constant treatment with antibiotics or traditional medicines because of something that has conditioned evolution of the species since life appeared on Earth. This is called the natural selection, developed by Charles Darwin. So when this bacteria develop resistance to antibiotics, it's like a fish that develops fins so it can swim. Well, secondly, you talked about the loss of biodiversity, about that directly, but you mentioned it, and I'd like to mention that there are many projects focused on improving the biodiversity, to stop the losing of biodiversity. For example, I'd like to mention a project which is centered on saving the American chestnut from extinction, and this is being achieved through a hybrid between Chinese and the American chestnut, which has genetic resistance to chestnut flag, deadly fungus that almost ends with the native population of American chestnut in the beginning of the 20th century. Here, transgenics contribute greatly to prevent the loss of biodiversity. Then you talk about unknown consequences, and I'd like to mention a study made by the Journal of Animal Science during third decade and over 1,000 million animals, because it was done since 1983, where GM foods didn't exist, until 2011, when they were fed mainly with GM foods. The result is that this transition hasn't supposed any consequences on their health and productivity. I repeat, they are 3 decades, and it's been, so that includes the period where they didn't exist to when they were created to now that they are advanced. Well, now I'd like to talk to you about the substantial equivalence principle, because there's something that well, I'd like to talk to you about the substantial equivalence principle, supported by the biggest world authorities about food, such as the FAO or the World Health Organization. To explain this principle, I'd like to quote it. It says, DNA of every living organism is structurally similar. For these reasons, the presence of transferred DNA in the food themselves doesn't cause any impact on consumers' health, since the DNA is the same. So, genetically modified foods must be considered as safe as conventional ones if these have the same composition characteristics. So, if a GM plant is the equivalent to a natural one, both of them should be regulated the same way. Secondly, I like to mention that more nourishing foods are being developed, and they could report a lot of benefits to people. For example, modified coffee is possible to obtain a caffeinated version that can be grown naturally. Like, there is no coffee, there aren't coffee beans that don't contain caffeine. And I think this could be very good for many people who can't tolerate caffeine. Secondly, there's the case of the gluten-free wheat, which could be very good for the gluten intolerant. The fruit would be cheaper because it could be grown up naturally. It wouldn't have to be removed, the gluten from the fruit. And there are the second generation transgenics that are meant to make better our health. For example, they can combat several illnesses and be used as edible vaccines. For example, some For example, the insertion of human DNA into tobacco plants in order to obtain vaccines against flu, the Hodgkin lymphoma, or to obtain human virgin collagen, an investigation carried by the scientists of the Associate from the Agriculture Faculty of Hebrew University of Jerusalem. And there is also the case of the purple tomato with rosins with high in antioxidants, and actually when testing it on rats, they live 40% longer. Well, now my partner is going to give a reasons about they are going to never ready to answer any questions.
Is it questions? Question.
One question.
Wouldn't we destroy natural plants by growing GMOs, and why?
No, I don't think so. Actually, I will tell you why. I will put the example of the BT crops, which have a toxin, and many ecologists claim that this makes increasing and causes an increase in the use of herbicides on crops, but I think that it is not like that. Well, I think it's proof that it's not like that, because they are designed to resist herbicides. The problem is the use that we are making of them. Like, GMOs shouldn't be any threat to life, biodiversity, and environment themselves, but we are using them wrong. The main problem of transgenics are the companies that regulate them. If they were treated on the way, if they were seriously controlled, if they were well created and designed, they wouldn't suppose any threat to anything. Like, your question, I think, has no sense, because it's all about what companies do. Transgenics themselves aren't harmful at all. Actually, they could be one of the biggest advances that humanity encountered. Okay.
At this point, anyone will ask a question to N2, providing new data to answer.
So good afternoon, dear judges, members of opposing team, audience. I am the second speaker of the approving team, and we are firmly confident that the world would be a better place without genetically modified food. And I will start by rebuttaling what the first speaker of the opposing team said. To our first argument, that GMOs harm the environment, a member of the opposing team mentioned that there are many projects to preserve biodiversity. But if there are such projects, that means that there already is a threat to losing biodiversity. So that means we have to fix consequences made by genetically modified food. So and that means we have to spend money that could be spent somewhere else. So it means that the world would be a better place without genetically modified food. And also, to our second argument, they mentioned that they mentioned one study that said that genetically modified food isn't bad. However, it's only one study, and they didn't specifically mention anything about all the health problems that we mentioned. Also, they mentioned that gene crossing doesn't cause health problems. But as I will mention later in my case, scientists at the University of Nebraska have proved that soybeans that have been modified with genes from Brazil nuts set off a strong allergic reaction to people sensitive to Brazil nuts. Also, they mentioned the possibilities of genetically modified food. For example, we could make coffee without caffeine and products without gluten. But there's really no point making coffee without caffeine, because if you don't like coffee, the answer is simple: don't drink coffee. And now I will further more substantiate our own case. Our first argument is that GMOs harm the environment. Pesticides, herbicides, insecticides are widely used in farming to exterminate pests. However, if they are used too much, they end up polluting soil, waters, etc. Over-exaggerated pesticide use leads to air pollution, contaminated soil with less quality, polluted water, and so on. Application of pesticides can also kill honeybees. United States Department of Agriculture and United States Fish and Wildlife Service have calculated that United States farmers lose at least $200 million a year from reduced crop pollination. And GMO is a major factor in increased pesticide use. Research shows that genetically engineered crops have increased overall pesticide use by 144 million kilograms over the first 20 years. We are currently living in a world where there are many ecological problems: polluted air, global warming, loss of biodiversity, etc. And GMOs are only amplifying our problems, so it is only natural and logical to conclude that the world would be a better place without genetically modified food. And our second argument is that genetically modified food isn't healthy. Some animals are also getting genetically engineered. For example, Aqua Bounty Technologies have developed a salmon that can secrete growth hormones all year round. That way these fish grow twice as fast as regular fish. Sounds great, doesn't it? A fish that can be grown faster, which means more fish can be supplied to a global market. The truth is that artificial growth hormone can have catastrophic effects on human health. Increased cancer risks, many genetic disorders, kidney insufficiency, and tumor development. Also, genetically modified foods can cause allergic reactions. As I mentioned before, a research published in New York Times showed that scientists at the University of Nebraska said tests proved that soybeans modified with genes from the Brazil nut set off a strong, potentially deadly allergic reaction to people sensitive to Brazil nuts. So again, by continuing growing genetically modified foods, more people will have severe health problems, which definitely won't make the world a better place. And we are still firmly confident that the world would be a better place without genetically modified food, and I'm ready to answer opposing team's question.
By 2050,
Farmer.
Food production will be reduced on 12%, and the world will be overpopulated. And also, it says that transgenics would be a great thing to battle this lack of food in the future. So my question is, do you really think that the world would be better off without genetically modified food?
Yes, because I have a research that shows that around 40% in food in America is thrown out because it gets old and gets stale. So really the food we have enough food. The problem is that we don't know how to use this food. So really, food isn't a problem. It's just that Americans. It says that Americans are throwing out the equivalent of $165 billion of food each year. So GMOs won't solve a problem because there isn't a problem in the first place.
Well, I think that with the 40% of the people of the United States, you can feed like around 2,000 million people. That is going to be in the world more than what we are now.
Well, but anyway, I mentioned that it is good food, natural food that is just thrown out. We can see it all the time in supermarkets that food that is over the expiration date gets thrown out and it hasn't got any use. So As I mentioned, and I will repeat myself once again, the world has got enough food. It only the problem is that we don't know how to divide it properly.
Well, I still don't agree, but thank you for your answer.
Now it's time for the
Good morning, everyone. So I would like to begin first by saying that you mentioned a study that says that some rats who have eaten some corn got cancer. Well, the European Food Safety Authority rejected because it's poor scientist quality. So the magazine had to eradicate the publishment, and because the rats had a tendency to get by themselves that cancer without eating any corn. And it also was only made with 10 rats. And then you spoke about the problem about the thrown away food. And yes, the food is thrown away, but maybe we here in Europe or in modern countries have that problem that the food is thrown away. But in countries like some of Africa or Asia have not that problem. Maybe because they have not enough food. And then the majority of the transgenics are good for the humanity. Examples like the golden rice, which has 60% of vitamin A, more than the normal one, and the potato, which has 40% more of proteins than the normal potato. And also, the farmers get more benefit because it's cheaper to cultivate transgenics. I'd like to mention a study made by the Generalitat de Catalunya that says that with an interval of 11 days and 30 meters, there wouldn't be no contamination of a transgenic crop to another normal. Also, the World Health Organization and the FAO assure that there's no dangerous transgenic food available at the market. I'm going to quote. The FAO says, up to date, the countries in which transgenic crops have been introduced have not seen considerable damages for health or environment. And the World Health Organization says the transgenic modified organisms currently available at the market have passed the controls, and it's not probable that they present risks for human health. Also, the biggest examples that you mentioned are products made by multinationals. For example, Monsanto and Syngenta, which only want their own benefit above the people's health. So, the solution could be a estatal subvention to public institutions that investigate or develop scientist studies, like universities, or one like we have here in Spain, who's called CSIC. And also, I would like to talk about the more capability of thriving with poor soil of adverse climates. There are several researches focused on creating crops resistant to drought. low temperatures or that could grow in lands which for a traditional crop would be impossible to develop in. This would reduce our dependence on water and fertilizers, and it would be possible to obtain food in every part of the world. So everyone could plant food regardless of where they are. Another word to debate. And also, I would like to mention the problem with biopatents, like for example, Monsanto makes another product, and they own it and try to get the more money they can.
Thank you, and I have one question. Wouldn't it be easier to save food which is also already produced than grow a new one with unknown consequences? Do you understand the question?
No, I would like you to repeat.
In the world we are producing food that every year is like throwing away, like people don't eat it and just throw away. Wouldn't it be easier to save this food and give them to people who need it than produce GMO food with unknown consequences, because we don't really know what GMO food, what kind of it is. Do you understand?
Well, there's a fact that in countries like, I don't know, Namibia or some country of Africa, Asia or South America, or countries of the third world have not enough food. There's a lot of malnourishment, so, well, maybe we have that problem of that thrown away food, but they don't have the problem because...
Yes, I understand. But if we save food in America and send it to maybe Africa, India, where the food isn't enough, would it be easier than cut trees and make GMO some plants and something like that?
Well, I think that it's easier to grow crops in that place instead of bringing them here from Spain, Italy, America to Mozambique.
But why, if we have already food, like I have an apple but I don't want it, why it is easier to buy a new one apple, not to give my apple that I don't want to one who wants it?
Okay, do you accept his answer?
No.
Because actually you should ask one question.
It was a long question, just
Okay.
long.
You interrupted his answer to ask another question, which is not permitted. You didn't let him finish his answer, you interrupted him to ask another.
Okay.
That's okay. You can say that I don't accept your answer, or you can say I accept your answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Now I leave the floor to A3 to answer the arguments of N.
So I'm the third speaker of the team, and my team believes that the world would be a better place without GMO food. And I'll start with stating the fact that my teammates already tried to explain in their cases that the food that's being thrown out right now
is 30 to 40%, and if we didn't throw it out, we would have enough food to feed 10 billion people in 2050. And our opponents mentioned that companies show GMOs in bad light, but there are scientific researches made that show that these genetically modified foods are not healthy for humans. Just like my teammates said, there's immunity problems, problems regulating insulin, which the opposing team didn't ignore and didn't pay any attention to them. And these health risks are a big enough reason why we shouldn't use GMOs. Of course, there will be more people in this world, but it would be better to have healthy people here living than people that have health issues and maybe die in middle age. Our opponents also mentioned that rats don't get cancer on themselves also, but that's not how cancer works. There needs to be some kind of chemical or cancer gen that makes the cancer cells develop in the organism. So it's quite hard to get cancer on its own. And GMOs are the thing that makes the cancer cells in our organism active. And if there's rats and other animals that have gotten this cancer from GMOs, that means us humans with similar organisms as animals can also get cancer and the other illnesses my teammates mentioned in their cases. Our opponents also ignored the negative effect on the environment that GMOs do. GMOs are quite strong organisms, and to control them and save them from any insects or something like that, they need to use more pesticides and things like that. And these things go into our environment and poison is it, and which also leads to human health problems. So our team's both arguments are connected to our resolution that the world would be a better place without GMO food. Thank you.
Now it's time for M3 to respond. Time for M3 to respond to arguments, and it will be the end of the debate.
Good morning, I'm the third speaker of the TMN, and I want to say that I totally disagree with the resolution that the world would be better off without genetically modified food. That case you mentioned of the Brazilian walnut and its allergic reaction has led to the identification of this new allergenic protein. So it won't appear in other GM food, and it will be able to be removed from traditional foods. Well, to conclude this debate, I would like to emphasize in 5 points. The first is a clarification. The second, a statement. The third is a quote. The fourth is a question. And the fifth is a conclusion that will seem obvious to all of you. In first place, nobody should be affected by transgenics or have to eat them if they don't want to, because it is possible to take security measures like establishing safe distances between GM and non-GM crops. This makes possible the coexistence of both kinds of crops. And also the European Union's precautionary principle of the labeling of GM food that says that shows that the products that contain less than 0.9% of transgenic, so you don't have to eat them if you don't want to. Then I want to mention that none of the transgenics that are now available in the market for human consumption is risky, according to the World Health Organization and FAO, even though some multinationals don't respect it. But the ethic of this kind of companies is not part of this debate. In third place, I would like to quote Richard Roberts' Nobel Medicine Prize of 1993, who said, "Nowadays we can know exactly what gene we want to use. We can see what it does with others and check if it works or not. We don't have unexpected changes, we do constant tests, but ecologists worry about that, why they should worry about the techniques that are used in genetical modifications." And he also defends what the World Health Organization says about superpopulation and the shortage of harvests. In fourth place, I want to ask you, do you really think that the world would be better going back in time without genetically modified food? Please realize that we have only been using this type of technology for 20 years. And even though some mistakes have been made, the wise choices and advantages lead them a lot. They are also a big promise to the future, like medicines, more health, better foods, and more if we think about what FAO says. By 2050, harvests will be reduced in a 12%, while the world will be overpopulated. And finally, at least but not at last, the 80% of the soy grown up in the United States of America is transgenic, and the inhabitants don't show any damages in their health. The replacement of these crops would cause very serious economical problems. So, summing up all what my team has said, the resolution is totally annullated, and it is confirmed that the world is better with the progress and technology in favor of transgenics, therefore in people too. Thank you so much for your attention.
That although I can see that you very passionately represent your point of view, it's very important always to see the other side as well. And well, thank you very much. Okay, and I would like now to ask the other judges to come together and discuss the results, and we would like to ask for some time, if it's possible. Maybe 15 minutes.
We should go outside.
Yes, yes, please. Yes. So, in the name of the jury, I would like to tell you that what I said at the beginning of our little meeting, that I'm totally impressed and thrilled by the performance of both teams. I really had no idea how this debate contest would be commenced, but it was amazing, I must tell you. So I think both sides did a really good job, and I was totally convinced by both sides. Well, those problems that arose during the process of the debate is due to the fact that us teachers ourselves are beginners in this process, so we haven't communicated with precision some rules, and some things are not yet clear for us ourselves, so we must think about it, and we ourselves must discuss these points. Okay. So before I announce the result, I would like to tell you some things that I think we should all teachers as well improve on. Well, first, I would like to tell that I really enjoy the natural flow of the debate. That's why I kind of refuse to interrupt. I really enjoyed that you had your opinions and you reacted to each other. This was I think very good, and you used each other's arguments, not only the text or the arguments that you prepared by yourselves. And so the things that we should improve on, I think, is that no one should talk during the speech of one of the debaters. I think this is what the time is for, and I think it's very important to learn to respect, to listen to each other, listen to each other's arguments, take notes during each other's speech, and only communicate in writing, in written notes. We are all second language speakers of English, and usually we talk to second language speakers of English, so it's very important to learn to listen to second language speakers of English. It's very hard, you can see, but we must do it, and I think you did a very good job, but anyway, it's very important to keep silent during the debates. Okay, and this is a note for the future debates as well. Also, I think we have to think about the ethics of questioning and answering. We will see, also as teachers, we will have to decide what kind of question and answer ethics are we going to agree on. But I think it's good to listen to each other's questions, listen to each other's answers, and in some cases we just have to accept the answer that we receive, even if it's not proper, or so that's what we have to keep in mind. And the rest, I think, was really good. And so I must tell that the difference between the two teams were decided based on numbers only, because otherwise we couldn't reach a conclusion. And the difference is really very small. It's 1.5 points, so it's really very small difference. And I must congratulate the Spanish team. They did a very good job. Their speeches were very structured. They reacted to each other, and we could follow very well their arguments. But I must say that the Latvian team carried out an impressive job in also bringing out very good arguments and reacting to the other team arguments. I can see that this is a very strong point of yours, that you listen to the other and try to react to it. So I must also congratulate you, because you did an excellent job. And so please congratulate to yourself and congratulate to the other team as well. I think you both deserve it. And thank you very much for the master ceremony as well, for the job. Okay, thank you. Thank you.